Welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of the MJ Sports Podcast. My name is Mark, and I'm joined by Jonas, and this is your week of Sports in Review.
Sports, 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 woo! And we are back. And this might be a month in review here.
Yeah, it took a little bit of an extended absence.
It's okay. There wasn't really too much going on in the world of sports. So,
Yeah. This is kind of like our vacation, too. So.
That's right.
Yep. Well, you want to start this off with a little bit of quarterback drama?
Sure.
Well, for those of you who have been living under a rock, Aaron Rodgers, my quarterback, the quarterback that lives in the hearts of all Green Bay Packers fans, the greatest guest on the Pat McAfee show, apparently has been, isn't exactly happy with the situation in Green Bay. A lot of stuff's been being leaked since the night before the draft. Some things have been leaked talking about how Rodgers is not going to come back to the Packers unless Gutekunst is gone, the GM of the Packers. There's some things that came out about why he's mad. One of those things, Packers trading up to draft Jordan Love without letting him know ahead of time. There was also something that just came out earlier today that apparently he's really upset that the Packers cut Jake Kumro. That one seems a little more petty to me, just considering Kumro was like our number 6 wide receiver and he had like 20 catches over 2 years. But, basically right now the situation sounds like Rodgers wants a trade to either San Francisco, Denver, or Oakland. Sorry, not Oakland. Vegas. Did I get that all, Jonas? Anything else you need to add there on the situation?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said this at some point. That Rodgers is like the LeBron of the NFL. Just one big baby just crying, wah, wah, you didn't draft me a receiver, even though Valdez-Scantling and Lazard and Tanyan and Adams all played great. Like what? Like you draft a receiver, like what is going to be like your number 3 receiver. I mean, not everyone can have the Cowboys, group of receivers. And speaking of the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys should trade for Rodgers, reunite him with the only man that got him to the Super Bowl, Mike McCarthy.
I think you guys might be in his no trade clause somewhere.
He said he loves playing in the AT&T Stadium. How could you not want to play?
Well, you might need to get a new coach. Maybe you guys can finally give Kellen Moore that promotion.
I'd fire Mike McCarthy if we get Aaron Rodgers. Screw McCarthy at that point.
Yeah. So, why don't you offer your take on the whole thing? And then I'll offer mine since I'm a Packers fan.
I mean, I feel like I kind of said most of what I was feeling right there. I mean, I saw a meme and it was like, this man hasn't talked to his family in 2 years or whatever it is. What makes you think he's going to go back to the Packers? Like, what makes you think he's going to stay loyal to the Packers? Really what I want to know is, if this whole thing is winning a Super Bowl, why would you want to play for Denver or Oakland?
Well, Oakland seems like the worst destination to me. I mean, you've got a bad offensive line. You've got Gruden as a coach. That just seems like an awful situation to go to in my mind.
I mean, like literally, there's so many other teams that you would think would take Rodgers like in a heartbeat. I actually don't think the Cowboys would, because Jerry Jones likes to stay loyal to the quarterbacks we draft for some reason. But I feel like Tennessee, like if they had Rodgers with Ryan Tannehill, like they could easily get to the Super Bowl, and he wouldn't even have to play Tom Brady in the NFC. Which I guess that's kind of why you would want to go to the AFC potentially. But yeah, Oakland.
Then you have to see Mahomes.
I guess. I mean, what do you want, Mahomes or Tom Brady? Mahomes doesn't have the Brady luck yet. So
Well, that's true. So, well, my whole thought on this, and it seems like everybody's on one aisle or the other. I see a lot of people like Colin Cowherd is like all in supporting Rodgers. I think he's being kind of an idiot. I understand that Rodgers is mad, and I get it. He's been the quarterback in Green Bay for a long time now. He'd probably appreciate it if the front office would kind of let him know when things that may affect him, when they're going to make moves like that. But he is not the GM, so he doesn't get to make some of those personnel decisions. And I think that he doesn't like seeing the same thing happen to him that the Packers did when they had Favre and they drafted Rodgers. Granted, Jordan Love is not as highly touted as Rodgers coming from the draft, but in my mind, I get why Rodgers is mad. I think he's overblowing everything's way overblown. He's trying to gain some leverage here. In reality, I really don't think he has much leverage. He's got 3 years on his contract, and pretty much none of it's guaranteed. He's threatened to retirement potentially. The deal with retirement is Rodgers he's going to have to pay back the Packers about $21 million if he retires, in signing bonuses. So there's a substantial financial impact to him. And I just don't see him retiring at this point. I don't think he'll hold out really either. He just doesn't seem like he'd do something like that. I mean, if he does, the Packers can just fine him every week, kind of like what the Texans have said they'll do with Deshaun Watson earlier this year. So the Packers, either way, they're going to get their money back if he doesn't play. And the Packers front office, from what I've seen, I think they're about as petty as they come. Mark Murphy is a little bit of a savage. Granted, by no means is he the perfect figurehead as an owner. I don't always agree with what he has to say, but I think Mark Murphy and Gutekunst will be fine to let this kind of ride out and leave the ball in Aaron's court and see what he does, because I think they realize that he just doesn't have a whole lot of leverage here. And granted, I saw that LaFleur, Gutekunst, and Murphy have all flied out to California to go talk to Rodgers over the summer to try and reconcile this situation. If you look in the draft, Packers just took like 4 offensive linemen this draft. They took a slot wide receiver, which we haven't had really since Randall Cobb. And I mean, if you look at the weapons Rodgers has, Packers, yeah, they lost Corey Linsley, but Packers develop linemen just about as good as anybody. So the Green Bay keeps him protected. We've seen this last year. Valdez-Scantling looks like could be a great complement to Devontae Adams. If they get Amari Rodgers going in the slot, you've got 3 viable receiving options. And then you've got Allen Lazard, who's kind of your guy that goes in and does the dirty work as a wide receiver. That's also a receiving threat. And don't forget about Robert Tonyan, who this last year emerged as looking like one of the better tight ends in the league. So he's got a ton of weapons, and he's protected. So I don't think there's any complaint that he can have right now. He can say, oh, they didn't take a wide receiver in the first round of the draft. Yeah, but that's not going to matter if we have Kevin King blowing coverage in the playoffs, in the NFC Championship again, or throughout the season again. So I gotta spend some time on the defense. So I think Rodgers is overblowing a lot of this. I'm going to be real interested to kind of see how this happens. I mean, I really don't think Green Bay is going to fret. And I really don't know if they'll trade him, to be honest.
Well,
I mean, I think if they got a Kings, if they got, I guess if they got like a King's ransom, and I'm sure they've been offered what some people will be calling a King's ransom, but, they're probably looking for more than what some teams are thinking. I just don't know if they will.
yeah, I really just the more I think about it, and the more you're kind of explaining it, the more I'm like, Aaron Rodgers just looks like a complete moron in this whole thing. I mean, they're in prime position to make another run. They just made the NFC Championship game 2 years in a row. I mean, they lost a couple people, but for the most part, most of the core team is returning.
Well, we literally brought everyone back except Jamal Williams, who's being replaced by A.J. Dillon, who had that big game against the Titans this last year. And they lost Corey Linsley, but we drafted a bunch of offensive linemen. So someone's going to be able to fill in. They'll either plug in Elton Jenkins, who played there a lot last year, and just move someone to guard. Offensive line's going to be good again. And they paid Bakhtiari, one of the top left tackles in the league, top tackle money last year. So, I mean, in my mind, the Packers are doing everything they can to keep Rodgers upright and to give weapons. So, yeah, exactly like that. I still love Rodgers, but I think this is getting a little ridiculous. Okay. Well, that's enough about Aaron Rodgers, I guess. Let's move on to the draft. Jonas, I guess, what are your thoughts on the draft?
Yeah, this was quite the little draft this year. I think a ton of people watched it again. Last year it seemed like, obviously, I think it had like record numbers because there was nothing else to watch. This year I think they did pretty good again. I mean, you had all the quarterback drama, all the trades and everything. To me, I don't know what you think about the 5, like, quote-unquote top quarterbacks that were taken. To me, Trevor Lawrence is, like, the only one that I think would be, like, really, actually really good. I just think it's going to be on a horrible team, so it might be a little hard to determine. Zach Wilson to me just almost seems like another Sam Darnold, kind of.
I think he's kind of set up to fail almost. Like, you've got a defensive-minded head coach, and that's not a dig on Saleh. Like, I think he can be a good coach. It's just, sometimes when you get a young quarterback like that, and I don't know what their offensive coordinator status is and who their quarterback coach is, so maybe that's not the concern, but he's in a big market that faces a lot of pressure, and he really doesn't have a ton to work with on offense, in my mind at least.
Yeah,
and he's definitely, I think he's a little bit more raw than some of the other prospects.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if I get the pick. I mean, Trey Lance, the 49ers take Trey Lance, and it's like, I mean, Kyle Shanahan's whole thought is kind of, well, no matter who I draft, I'm going to turn him into a good quarterback. Or, whoever we draft is going to be better than Garoppolo. So, I'm not sure if that pick is going to work out either, really. And then I think Justin Fields, I don't think he'll be very good, personally. I think he'll be second best besides Trevor Lawrence. And, he definitely has him, Lance, and Mac Jones all will have the best opportunity and be on the best team, to try to actually be successful. Personally, thank goodness the 49ers didn't take well, actually, I say thank goodness, but I wish the 49ers would have taken Mac Jones, I guess, because I think he's going to be horrible. I mean, I get all the Tom Brady, all the Tom Brady
Tom Brady wasn't a first-round pick, though.
conversations, and yeah. Mac Jones is like a guy you would take in the 6th round, thinking, we'll take a shot, and then like Cam Newton dies, or halfway through the season, it's like, oh, here's Mac Jones. Let's see what we got out of him. And then somehow he's actually good. But I just do not. I don't understand how he had so much hype. I mean, he's on like one of the best college football teams in the past decade. I mean, they didn't lose a game. They had
and they have the best wide receivers.
They had 2 top 10
every
picked
year.
Receivers in this year's draft.
Their offensive line is phenomenal. Like, he literally has to do nothing.
I mean, Alabama had 10 players picked this year in the draft.
Yeah.
So, and 9 of them, are 9 not including him. So it's like basically half of the team he is on is going to be in the NFL. So basically he had a half NFL team competing against a whole bunch of other teams who, I mean, like Vanderbilt. They, that's really just the one I really don't get. I mean, at least Lance, you're like, maybe he's decent. Yeah.
My thought on the whole thing. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Lawrence is going to have a good career. I think Trey Lance, I think for the 49ers, that was the right quarterback to go with at that point if you're going to go with a quarterback. Just because they already have a quarterback. Granted, we'll see if he can make it through the full season. And I know they talk about Trey Lance and how, like, he's got all these intangibles and he just has to get a lot more refined. So if everything goes to plan in San Francisco, I think it could work out. Zach Wilson, I mean, I know the Jets were enamored with him. I don't know. Like you said, I feel like this could turn into a similar Sam Darnold situation if they don't improve the team around him. As far as Justin Fields go, I don't think he's going to be like super good, or I don't think he's going to be fantastic. I think he could be good enough to run the Bears' offense. Like, I think he's got enough of a playmaker, because the Bears need a playmaker on offense. That's what they need. That someone that may not be the best at actually throwing the ball, but they can make plays, they can get out of the pocket, stuff like that. Granted, I think he really needs to sit this year behind Andy Dalton. I think if they throw Justin Fields in too quick, he could turn out like Dwayne Haskins. Maybe not as bad as Dwayne Haskins, but I think I think the key is, there's no reason to start Justin Fields this year as long as Andy Dalton's healthy.
Well, to me, I see almost like the Dolphins situation last year. Go Andy Dalton first 8 weeks, 7-8 weeks. Even if you're good, I mean, you're not expecting to win the Super Bowl with Andy Dalton, right? And maybe you overachieve, like the Dolphins did, and you throw Fields in, maybe he wins a couple games. Really, the Bears, it's going to be interesting to see, because once again they traded up. Now, I know they didn't give away quite as much, as getting Trubisky.
They gave up another first rounder.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as bad as the Trubisky trade up, but once again they trade up, and if it works out, it's going to be like it'll make up for the Trubisky mistake, but if he stinks again, they're just going to keep getting crap for it, which personally I kind of hope he stinks just so we keep railing the Bears.
Well, here's the problem too: is Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are both in the final year of their contract here, and depending on how ownership sets out for them, they haven't exactly had a great track record so far. So, depending on how they feel their job security is, I mean, I could see them if like Andy Dalton's not looking good within like 3-4 weeks. Maybe they do the same thing they did when they had Mike Glennon and rush Justin Fields out there to replace Dalton, which I think would just be a huge mistake because realistically, Bears are not going to win the Super Bowl this next year.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. They don't have the offensive weapons to contend with the top defenses. Play calling's still a little bit iffy at times. Defense is good. Their depth on their defense is not good. So I think with the Bears, it would be smarter if they really, if the Bears have a mediocre season, if they believe in Nagy and Pace, and that's not what this conversation's about, but if they do, you can try to bring them back for another year. Next year, try to bring in some more complementary pieces in free agency in the draft, and then maybe you try to go for it with Fields if you really see what you've got. But I think that the Bears, with how their management structure has handled things in the past, could screw this up this year if they try to get too overzealous. So
Honestly, I see them starting Fields, really.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, did you see that the Vikings thought they were going to take Fields?
Yeah.
And they were shocked. They were shocked when the Bears traded up. So that's an interesting piece too. You wonder if the Bears knew. Maybe they forced a trade up because you know how it is with if you don't want somebody in your division taking the guy that you wanted.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how the Packers really wanted Justin Jefferson. And weren't happy when Minnesota traded up to get him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing
I don't even.
Oh, go ahead.
And I was gonna say, I don't even see. I don't think Mac Jones should have been a first-round selection. He doesn't fit the mold of what a quarterback nowadays needs to be. He's about as immobile as they come. When you look at his passes, there's not a ton of zip on him compared to some of the other players. Like, I don't think he should have been a first-round pick.
All of his receivers, like, I didn't really watch Alabama besides the college football playoff, but all of his receivers, like, I want to say it was, I can't remember, I think it was Ohio State. They literally they had like a linebacker guarding Devontae Smith like in the first half, and Devontae Smith all he did was just run behind the line of scrimmage in motion. The linebacker tried to keep up with him, and then he just like ran down the field, and then Mac Jones just threw it to him like there's nobody like 10 yards to him, like half of the passes. But the other thing I'll say that kind of shocked me is the Bengals take another receiver at number 5 or whatever it was, and instead of that offensive lineman. I do not understand that. But
I mean, the only thing I could think is, I mean, I would have gone offensive lineman too because you got to protect Joe Burrow after what happened this last year, but I mean, I guess maybe they thought they could fill in some of the holes in the O-line later in the draft, but I know the first couple linemen on the board, like there was a lot of hype around these guys, being some of the best O-line prospects we've seen in a little while. So I wasn't really in love with that decision either. Maybe we should talk to our Cincinnati sports specialist sometime later this month.
I talked to him during the draft, asked him what he thought about it, and he liked the receiver pick, and he claimed there was good O-linemen later in the draft, so I don't know.
Well, you can say there's good O-linemen later in the draft, but until they get on the field, you really don't know, because the guys on the NFL defensive lines are a whole lot stronger than the ones in college. So.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, but I mean, that's really. I mean, past the first round, I don't even care. I barely cared about the Cowboys draft once Surtain got drafted, like right before us. So, but we.
Hey, you got Sean Lee's replacement.
Well, and we're not picking up Van Der Esch's fifth-year option. We're gonna try to reach a long-term contract. But to me, it kind of almost seems like, oh, we'll give him another year. If he can stay healthy and play as well this year, we'll sign him. If not, maybe let him walk. But we'll see. Supposedly, this Micah Parsons guy is going to be good. It's just...
He sat out this last year, I believe.
Well, he's like a big Cowboys fan, like growing up, apparently. We drafted like two guys that were Cowboys fans. One of them was like from Kentucky. So, who knows? Jerry Jones could have been like, oh, that guy was a Cowboys fan. Let's just draft him. So.
Hey, the Packers actually drafted a Wisconsin offensive lineman for once, who's from Green Bay originally.
Wow, doesn't even have to move.
I'm hoping Cole Van Lanen can make it be a hometown staple on the Packers front. But anyways, yeah, like you said, it's not really worth talking about the later rounds of the draft because there's really no way to evaluate those rounds until you see them on the field. So,
yeah.
You want to switch sports?
Yeah. Let's talk some baseball here.
Yeah, so...
What's the surprises so far, Mark?
So... Well, one of my surprises is how well the Brewers have played with their roster being in complete shambles with 16 players on the IL. And these aren't just like back-end pieces. Like Yelich and Kane missed a couple weeks there. Corbin Burns is on the IL right now, and he's looked like Jacob deGrom out there pretty much. Omar Narvaez, who's just been slugging it as a catcher this year, he's been out. I mean, Colton Wong missed the first couple weeks of the season. So I'm shocked because the Brewers' offense, when you're trotting out a lineup with some of those names in there, when I see like Billy McKinney batting in like the four hole, that doesn't really make me feel too good about our offense. But Brewers are one of the top teams in the National League right now, so I'm hoping they can keep it up, and while they get these guys healthy. But
yeah, well,
that's one of my big surprises.
Did you guys just get Yelich and Kane back?
So Yelich came back yesterday, got 2 hits, and now he's back on the IL.
What? What happened?
He apparently. So the tough part is, so the Brewers really they kept them both down a little bit longer, but because the minor league games only started yesterday, they haven't been able to rehab them in minor league games. Get them some at bats. Really test things out against competition in a game setting, and so they brought him back up. And I guess yesterday he said that his back started really aching up again, and they said it was a thing to where realistically. Could the Brewers play him 3-4 times a week and just have him sitting out, half the week? Yeah, they probably could, but they really don't want to. They want to get his back completely healed. So they put him back on the IL today, which was a little disappointing. So, especially, yesterday I saw him get the 2 hits, and I'm like, oh, great. We got Yelly back. This is going to help our offense out tremendously with the injuries we've had. And nope.
Yeah, that is...
Got at least another 10 days without him.
That is unfortunate, really. At least you've been winning games without having to rely on him, so...
Well, and
scrubs.
Yeah, well, Travis Shaw has been our 3-4 hitter.
Yeah, he's not doing too bad. He hits home run every couple days.
His average isn't there right now, but he has been getting RBIs and he has been walking. So he's He's been doing, I think, about everything the Brewers could ask him to do right now. Especially considering, like, going into the season, he probably wasn't expected to be anything more than a platoon player, and he's been an everyday third baseman. So I'm not mad with how Travis Shaw is playing. The average isn't sexy, but he's been doing what he needs to. He's not striking out.
Fit on the Rangers.
He's walking. So.
Well, the other thing, I'm kind of shocked. The Royals. That's probably my most shocking thing to start the year, because I remember we were making jokes about the Royals fan that we know, making jokes like, oh, maybe we get a Texas Kansas City AL championship, conference championship or whatever, and maybe the Royals do somehow get there.
Yeah, they've been surprisingly good so far. I'm not sure they'll be able to sustain it, but I mean, if you're a Kansas City fan, you got to be excited, because I think they were expecting to be in the cellars this season.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm not sure too many people thought they would be very good, but the other team, one of my three teams, I kind of try to keep a track of, the old Boston Red Sox, looking about the same record as the Dodgers here. Verdugo playing pretty good. So
JD Martinez is back too.
Yep. I mean, Devers kind of had a little bit of a down year last year as well. He's been playing good. Got Bogaerts, obviously, still playing well. And really, I mean, like that Bobby Dalbec guy who had a good last 20, 30 games as a rookie last year. If he could kind of pick it back up for him, I mean, they could be even better. So I'll be interested to see where they end up, and if the Yankees can somehow claw their way back. I mean, that's a tough little division there with Toronto and Tampa Bay.
Well, and you've got the Rays there, who will call up some guys you've never heard of from their minor league system. They'll have a great 1 year, and then they'll trade them.
Yeah.
So.
Or they have like a great year. I mean, you got all these like random guys who have one good year. Next year they're terrible. Next year they're good. Next year they're terrible. And it's just like, it's so random. I mean, like they got that Joey Wendell guy. Who else they got? Like Brandon Lau was great last year. I mean, this is kind of what I said at the end of the year. What we were saying was like, I really don't expect them to be that good this year. They just had a bunch of players overachieve, and I mean, they kind of had to hope like Austin Meadows could get back to what he did a couple years ago, which he hasn't really done so far. And you got to hope Randy Arozarena plays as good as he did in the playoffs. Otherwise, the rest of their team's kind of just a bunch of scrubs, I think.
Yeah. They do have Wander Franco, who will be calling up sometime soon if they haven't already.
Well, they better get him up there.
He's the top prospect in all of baseball, so there's a lot of hype around him.
Yeah, might as well pick him up for fantasy. Just right now.
Yeah, go for it. One of the I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a huge surprise to me, but disappointments has just been the entire NL East. I mean, granted, Marlins, yeah, they did well in pandemic baseball last year. I don't think anyone was really expecting them to carry over to this year. But you've got the Braves at 12-16.
Oh.
I mean, Acuna's playing, Acuna's playing great. But, I mean, the Braves just don't have it together. And then, talk about teams that don't have it together. You've got the Mets, who spent a ton of money this last offseason trying to improve their offense. And their offense, by far, is like the worst scoring runs in the majors. I mean, Lindor has been a complete disappointment. Obviously, that can change. You know, he moved to a new city, everything like that. But there's a lot of pressure in New York to succeed early, and I know some of the boos have already come out for him, so that can't be easy. But for Mets fans, and plus, you know, the Mets have already, like, destroyed 2 DeGrom gems with losses because they can't score anything.
I know. I think that's absolutely hilarious, though.
Like, it's so frustrating for me to see DeGrom. I've got him in both my fantasy leagues. DeGrom will pitch, like, 8 innings, have, like, 15 strikeouts, and then he ends up with a loss because he gave up 1 run in the first inning. And it's like, what kind of garbage is this?
Oh, no. It has me cracking up laughing every time.
And then you've got the Phillies. And the Phillies, I just love it because the Phillies have spent all this money over the last couple of years, on guys. And it's just hasn't. It hasn't worked out at all, and I love it. They're 14-15. And then you've got the Nationals, who are first in the division at 12-12. So that division as a whole has been.
And like Strasburg hasn't even been pitching for them, and Patrick Corbin's been horrible. I don't even know how they're winning games.
Yeah, he's been awful. A lot of money going to him.
Yeah, like the Phillies, they act like. I mean, the Rangers kind of do this too, but like they're acting like Zach Wheeler is like a great. He's the ace and whatever. And it's like. This guy's like, I mean, he's basically like the Rangers. I mean, we have Kyle Gibson. They're basically like the same player. The guys should be like a 3 or 4 starter in the rotation, and he's the number 1 starter. So it's just, and then Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper's actually playing pretty well. I can't fault him so far this year, but
yeah, I mean they've got Nola too.
Oh yeah, Nola I guess would be the ace, but.
Yeah, and then they've got Real Muto.
Man, I mean they have Real Muto, but it's like catchers are just the most worthless position, I think, just about.
Well, okay. I think worthless is the wrong word to use because a good catcher that knows how to call a staff is extremely important. That's why you see a lot of catchers that have crappy batting averages stick around. But you mean from an offensive production standpoint,
yeah, I just don't see, I mean, guys, you got, like, Gary Sanchez. After this year, if I'm the Yankees, I just get rid of him. He's terrible defensively. He's not batting like he did his first couple seasons in the league. I don't even know how he stays on their roster. I mean, at this point, I would rather go for a guy who's just really good defensively. If he's crappy on the offense, this is the whole thing with like Jeff Mathis, right? Lance Lynn and Mike Minor had like career years. The couple years that we had Jeff Mathis behind the plate. Last year, we don't bring him back. Lance Lynn still performs great. Mike Minor just flat out stinks. Now I know that's not necessarily quite all on the catcher, but man, you got to think whenever they had like their most strikeouts in the season, just having a good defensive catcher, helps a lot. And even if you have an average defense and average offense, I would think is almost better than what Gary Sanchez is doing.
Well, and we've seen a shift in the league. Like it's really been over the last 10 years. Prior to the last 10 years, you could be a catcher that batted like 220, as long as you stayed over the Mendoza line, you were probably good. And as long as you were good with the pitching staff and you were sharp defensively, you could pull out a long career. Because that was important, and teams pretty much accepted that, catching's a brutal position to play. So you can't expect a ton out of them offensively. Flash forward to modern day, now we're seeing a lot more teams are like, well, offense is more important now. We're willing to take a little bit of a cut in the defensive performance. Maybe a guy's not able to throw a bunch of guys out. But if he can hit moderately well, we're going to be happy with that. So it's been a little bit of a change of focus, and you don't see a ton of guys that can do both. I mean, you have guys like Salvador Perez.
Yeah.
I mean, Real Muto. You've Narvaez this year, but not typically. But like Yachty, you think
I still think
Yachty.
it's funny that like Salvador Perez and Yadier Molina are still like the two best defensive and offensive catchers.
Well, and Yachty's been around for like 20 years.
I know, it's just
like,
fun. That's what just has me cracking up laughing about it.
Well, and Buster Posey did it for a long
And
time.
Buster Posey,
I mean, he hasn't been.
He took last year off. This year he's come back and he's playing great.
Yeah, so you do have some catchers who can do both, and they are highly coveted. That's why you see Real Muto get top tier money. But as far as like the drop off goes, once you get past some of those top tier guys, normally you don't see those guys hit free agency. Like a lot of times, a team wouldn't let a catcher like Real Muto, ever go. I mean, obviously the Marlins, they traded him when they were selling off the farm, but usually you see those guys stick around forever. Like Buster Posey, he's stuck around with the Giants. Yachty, always been a Cardinal. Salvador Perez, stuck around with the Royals. So those guys don't hit free agency.
I mean, the couple guys that you've seen that have had a couple, like Jonathan Lucroy, was good for like a couple years. Or, I'm not sure exactly how long he was good. I know it was at least 2 years.
Yeah, he during his tenure in Milwaukee, he was great offensively and defensively. And that was awesome because he came straight from Double-A to the majors.
And then you've had Yasmani Grandal, who had a couple good years, and really the last couple years has just been kind of your average player.
He's had a lot of injuries too.
So it's the catching position is what it is, but. Do you have anything else for baseball, just in general?
No, nope, not really. That was our little deep dive into catching mechanics in the MLB. Yeah. I do want to talk. We don't normally talk a lot of hockey around here, but there was a big incident that happened that a lot of people are talking about, and I just thought I'd talk about it. And granted, forgive me, I don't know a ton of the names of the teams and the players involved, but I did watch this. So there's player Tom Wilson. Apparently, he's had a little bit of a past in being a little bit aggressive. The other day against the Rangers, basically, and it sounded like from what I saw, he was mad. He was still upset over a call that happened earlier in the game. But it came and, what happened was the play was a bunch of players. They were crashing the net. You kind of had a little bit of a scrum, like a bunch of people tripping over each other. Well, when he went down, he started taking a bunch of cheap shots on a guy and punching him in the face. I mean, he got a good couple, 5-6 punches on him. I mean, that right there, completely uncalled for, way too aggressive in my mind. There's no reason for that. But then he gets up and he takes Artemi Panarin, who's a former Blackhawk, and slams him to the ground. And, you can see, a little bit of whiplash there. It looks like he kind of hits his head on the ice a little bit. Even if he doesn't, gotta hurt a lot. And, just slams him to the ground and starts punching him, too. He kind of just lost control there for a couple seconds. Hockey's a brutal game, and we do see fights break out, but a little bit of the issue here is all that happened, and the NHL basically, I guess they have a head of player safety who usually handles the suspensions and the fines for incidents like this. All they did was fine the guy $5,000. Last I saw, he didn't even receive a suspension. Panarin's going to miss the rest of the season because of his injuries. I know the other guy was beat up pretty bad too. And a bunch of players in the Rangers are calling for the chief of player safety for the NHL to resign, saying it's ridiculous that Wilson didn't didn't get suspended for the rest of the season in the playoffs, and then indefinitely banned until he had to reapply for reinstatement next year. So just a little bit of an interesting play there. I did watch it, and he kind of went off the rails there. Just kind of looked like he kind of got into a weird mode there. But yeah, I mean, in my mind, I understand why people are upset. That seems like an offense that should be a little bit more than a $5,000 fine to me. But just wanted to bring that up because I'm seeing that's kind of going around in a lot of circles right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to add to that, really.
To the NBA.
Yes, the NBA. It's actually starting to get interesting. So, man, what are you thinking in the NBA right now?
Well, I'm thinking I'm a little disappointed with the state of the Bulls after the trade deadline. After trading away Wendell Carter Jr., and doing a couple other smaller trades, giving up 2 first-round picks, getting Vukovic, very, very happy to, was very excited to see. It looked like a good move on paper. And granted, in no way am I saying this trade's a failure, because the fact of the matter is, regardless of if the Bulls made the playoffs this season or not, no way they could contend with the top teams in the playoffs. Like, they're just not that deep. But, I mean, Bulls have just been awful since the trade deadline. I mean, it's like every night, like even in the games that the Bulls are winning by a substantial amount going into the fourth quarter, I just know they're going to blow it. And, Levine's been out. So that trade has not gone too well. I know that was one that a lot of people, that was one of the bigger headline trades. But not working out too great for Chicago right now. We'll see if that can improve. The ultimate goal of that trade is to try to get Zach LaVine to re-sign after next season. So if that gets done, the Bulls brass might be happy. But
yeah, the Phoenix Suns. I'll say this is something we were wrong about. The Chris Paul trade has actually been great for the Phoenix Suns. They're the number 1 seed in the West. They have the tiebreaker over the Jazz, who have been missing Donovan Mitchell for a little bit here. And then, I mean, that's been surprising. And the New York Knicks, as the number 4 seed, has obviously been quite the shock. And really, Atlanta, as the number 5 seed, has been pretty crazy, I think, as well. So this is I'll be interested to see what plays out. What I really hope happens is right now the Clippers are 4 seed and Lakers are 5 seed. I really hope that is the first round matchup, because that would be a completely insane first round matchup. Not to mention, like, you'd have Denver versus Dallas. I mean, the play-in tournament right now is you got Portland, Golden State, Memphis, San Antonio. I mean, I don't see any reason why Portland won't win one of the games. But you'd have Portland versus Utah. This might be the best NBA playoffs year since like 2014, I think. Since before the Golden State versus LeBron saga.
nope, I agree. It's getting interesting here at the end. So
Less than 2 weeks to go now, I think.
This is about the only time of year the NBA gets excited anyway.
Season ends May 16th. So, yeah, you got less than 2 weeks. I'll be interested to see. And also,
Indeed.
I want to ask, I can't remember if we talked about this already. What are your thoughts on the play-in tournament as a whole? To me, I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life.
I agree. I think it's kind of stupid.
Why are we rewarding teams with losing records as number 9 and 10 to be in?
Especially the East, who already struggles to put together enough teams to make the playoffs without losing records.
I mean, here's the thing. I think, well, okay, the East, whoever's the number 8 seed's gonna get swept, no matter who the number 1 seed is. The West, if it's Phoenix or Utah, you're almost, you're thinking, well, maybe Golden State could pull a game or two. Steph Curry goes off, and maybe it's 4-2. You're not thinking Phoenix or Utah's unbeatable like you would be thinking the Lakers are going to sweep whoever they play in that spot. But yeah, to me, they should just do the top 16 teams come playoff time, in my opinion. But I don't think they'll ever do that.
I agree. Let's just get rid of the conferences.
Really, the NBA?
You play every...
Oh, go ahead.
You just get rid of conferences, and then let's just do like a 60-game season. You just play everybody twice.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's just do it that way.
Yeah, because this season hasn't even been 80 games. Like, usually the playoffs started 2 weeks ago. We're going to be, like, into August before the NBA even ends.
Yeah, like this is one of the things. In most leagues, I am not a fan of people talk about wanting to cut baseball down. Like, I'm not a fan of that idea. The NBA needs to be cut down. And I think that's a fairly universal thought among a lot of fans, because the season it drags on so long, and the playoff structure for the NBA just takes forever as well.
Well, I think that's their problem. I mean, it drags on because they take 2, 3, 4 days off in between games, and then half the players are like, oh, I gotta rest this game, and it's like, bro, you just had 3 off days. You gotta rest your sore ankle again or whatever. Like, give me a break.
In my mind, let's take out some of the off days. Why not expand the active roster? Because active roster is 12 people, right?
Yeah, but the NBA drop off is so big.
I know it's a drop off, but let's expand it to 15. I think teams can carry 15 people. You can only dress 12. Expand it to 15. Take out some of the off days. Let's cut this down a little bit. I mean, I think that's a start at least.
Because are they playing a full 82 games?
Not this year.
It's got to be close. It's got to be pretty close because, like, Philadelphia, right? Okay, Milwaukee's played 64. Why didn't they just end it at 60 this season? I don't get it.
Yeah.
They should have just ended it at the start of May. Man, because let's say it's going to end in, like, August. And then are they going to start again in October?
No.
Like, can people take this much NBA?
Oh, it's just too much.
They need to start in December and just have like a 50-game season next year. I don't even know. I mean, I think it's going to end up being about 72 games this season. They only cut off 10.
Yeah, that's what it is. I just looked it up.
Man, I thought they were going with like a 62-game season this season.
They should try that.
Yeah, nobody's. And the thing is too is like LeBron is going to be anywhere from like 5 to 7 seed this year, and if they're the number 7 seed, they're still going to probably win their playoff series. I mean, it's just, man, there's no the extra 20 games is like, wow, the Spurs are going to be the 8th seed instead of Golden State. I'm really excited to see either of those teams lose in the first round. It's like, yeah. The NBA should just go to 6 teams. The MLB should bump it up to 6 teams. I think it should just be 6 teams across the board in all sports. Except for hockey, because at least hockey, it seems like they get the most variation, but Yeah.
Got a lot of. Yeah, hockey's a little bit of a different sport too. So.
But
But
yeah. Man, way too much NBA. Especially if they start in October, man.
why not just take a full season off of the NBA? Just see if we miss it.
I really don't think I would. Forget the regular season. Just skip the regular season next year, and just go straight into the playoffs next year. Just based on, or just have yeah. Here's my idea.
We have
I was gonna say this. You got 20 teams out of the 30 teams in the playoffs this year. Pretty much, if you're counting the play-in games, which I basically do, it's basically part of the playoffs at that point. You might as well just take the whole regular season off and just have all 30 teams play each other, and that's it.
Okay, new idea. Okay, you have each conference, and what you do is you have a ladder tournament in each conference.
Oh, you have like a gauntlet style, so 15 has to win 15 games.
Yep, that's how we do it, and then that's how you set up the playoffs for it. So you do an abbreviated season that's essentially a gauntlet/ladder tournament. Keep that within the conferences, and then to keep it short, and then you just get to the postseason a whole lot quicker.
I agree. Yeah, you know how much more entertaining it would be. Or they could even do something like the World Cup, right? You just have you have like 3 brackets with 5 teams, and then there's how would you do that exactly? If you're looking for 8 teams, I don't know. Or you could do the top 10 teams or whatever total.
Frankly, it's not our job to figure out the logistics. We're just providing the ideas.
Get rid of the regular season. Just do like a round robin tournament or something. Oh, here we go. To decide the playoffs, just have a double elimination bracket to decide the records, and then just go from there.
Yeah, it sounds. Yeah, we've got this figured out. So, Adam Silver, feel free to give us a call up. We'll fix the NBA.
That's right.
And if any of the other leagues need our help too,
might as well just call us.
Oh,
really? He could just
Rob.
call.
My suggestion to you, Rob, is just resign and let both of us take the co-commissioning duties.
I mean, I think Rob Manfred could just, talk to somebody with like a 0 IQ, and they would do better.
You know what we need to do? We need to get baseball down to 1-hour games.
Oh, amen. Oh, we're just gonna do it like the show.
Every batter's gonna start at a 3-2 count.
We're gonna do it like the show. We're gonna have a 3-inning starts, or 3-inning games, but then we have to somehow figure out a way to get the pitchers to get more fatigued faster.
Yeah. Pitchers have to throw a 100-pitch bullpen session right before the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be. Oh man, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure how you would do that for batters.
Yeah, we don't like Rob Manfred.
Really, Roger Goodell might as well just give up too. At least he's kind of improving.
Hey, I think he's come a long way.
What do you think about him?
Since what he used to be?
What do you think about him egging on the Brewers at the draft?
Hey, I'm glad he's accepting it, that it's going to happen. I did think the whole idea of bringing his chair from his house and having the fans sit in it was a little bit of an odd idea. I feel like that's something that he definitely came up with, and the people like producing the NFL draft were just like, okay, yeah, I guess we could make that work. But it just seemed a little bit weird to me. But
really, he should have just been sitting in this chair. Like, it would have been great if he had just been sitting in this chair with like a full box of Oreos the entire time.
Yeah, that'd be great. But
Um,
well, do you have any sports we don't care about to talk about?
yeah, just a little bit. I was gonna ask if you had seen. I forget even the names at this point, but that dude in the UFC who like snapped his leg in half.
Oh, that was
Well, and
disgusting.
then he landed
I
back on it too.
I know that. Oh, I I can only imagine the pain. Like just watching that was extremely uncomfortable.
But
I feel like I'd just go immediately into shock if that happened.
well, the guy didn't even feel it until he like looked at it, because he
Oh,
like went to step back
yeah.
down, so he clearly didn't even realize that half his leg wasn't.
Probably takes the body a little
Oh
bit
yeah, I
to
guess it probably does.
like there's probably a little bit of a shock factor there where the body doesn't really register the pain and what's happened for a few seconds at least.
Yeah,
But
that was just absolutely wild. I actually watched that a few times because I thought it was kind of cool, but that guy's career might be over, which kind of stinks for him. I'm not sure.
yeah.
I'm not sure how the UFC. You know how easy it is to come back to UFC from those types of injuries.
Yeah, I
But
mean they do have long time ranges between fights though
well, that
sometimes.
is true,
So
I guess.
I mean I don't. Yeah, I mean I think part of it would just be if he can get back in shape because it's going to be hard to at least keep your legs in shape and probably some of your core as well uh, while you're rehabbing that. So
Yeah. And the other UFC, or I guess it's more boxing, is Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. I think it's in like June or something like that. So that's gonna be pretty funny, I think.
Floyd better not choke on
Oh,
this.
which I don't even know if this is gonna be like a real fight or if it's just gonna be like Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul doing the. I don't know. Floyd Mayweather doesn't Neither of these guys exactly strike me like the type of people to do something fun for charity. But
Oh, you know Floyd's getting a nice paycheck from
yeah,
this in order to do
so I
it.
would think it would be real. And I mean, usually Floyd, I mean, his fights are pretty far out, so he must be thinking it's going to be not a problem. But that's why I'm thinking it's maybe not. Maybe it's not a real fight, but either way, it would be
Yeah,
pretty funny.
I'd like to see McGregor fight one of the Paul brothers.
Oh,
That's one. I don't like
have
McGregor,
him fight
but I
Jake
think
Paul, since Jake Paul's the one that's kind of more, I guess, actually trying to make a career out of it now.
yeah, I think McGregor would absolutely destroy
Now,
him.
granted, McGregor is also
Just
not
because,
a boxer, but
well, I'm sure Jake Paul would like to say that he's an MMA fighter too.
well,
So I'm sure you could talk him into it.
maybe they can do like a home and home. They do one UFC fight and one boxing match.
Yeah,
But
and hey, I mean, McGregor, he did box Floyd Mayweather.
that's true. He didn't do
So
too bad. But
no, I mean it's just Floyd did his classic strategy of I'm gonna wait you out 8 rounds and then once you're tired, then I'm gonna
yeah,
go.
pretty much.
Which has worked out pretty good for him. So it's definitely a boxing strategy. But
Yeah. Well, and then just the last little bit is the Madrid Open for tennis is currently underway. It's one of the bigger ATP tournaments, and really the only news out of that I have so far is that Naomi Osaka got beat by Carolina Muhova in the second round, and Osaka won the Australian Open, and Muhova got to the semifinal of the Australian Open, so kind of a couple familiar faces playing each other early on in the tournament in this one. So just anytime one of the bigger players loses, it's always kind of a surprise. And actually, I forget which tournament it was that ended like a week or two ago, but I think Nadal and Djokovic both lost in one of the kind of minor ATP events, minor tournaments. So, and then the French Open will be coming up here. I think it starts at the end of May, runs through mid-June. So, I'll be interested to see if Nadal can get his 21st Grand Slam and pass Federer. But
It'll be a sad day.
that it will. I would love it if Federer can win the Wimbledon in late June to July and get to 21. Hold that record just one more time. But, yeah. That's all I got.
Well, that's all I have too, so this has been your month of news from the MJ Sports Podcast, and we thank you for listening and being patient, and we'll probably be back next week. So, see ya.
See ya.